So next, let me introduce another speaker, next speaker. And see what will be the topic is like quality in space. The speaker is Lela Gabelaia, QA team lead and visiting lecturer at Tbilisi State University and Georgian Institute of Public Affairs.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be a speaker at this event today. Firstly, I would like to thank Exactpro organizers for creating such a useful and interesting meeting regarding to QA, as we really had lack of QA communities and QA meetings in Tbilisi, Georgia, and I'm really happy that it's getting improved. And now let me introduce myself. My name is Lela, and I have been working as a software tester for approximately 7 years. Now I work as a QA team lead in Space Bank, and I have got 5 super motivated testers in my team. Space Bank is the first fully digital neobank in Georgia, which exists only in customer smartphones and does not have any branches. So now, where is this? Yeah. Sorry. I really adore my profession and always try to be active in QA field. That's why I have made 2 open meetings regarding to software testing in previous years. The first one was at GeoLab in 2015, and the second one was here at Tech Park, Georgia in 2016. These meetings gave me new friends and acquaintances who were interested in software testing. In 2017, I started working as a visiting lecturer of software testing in 2 universities. The first one is Tbilisi State University, and the second one is Georgian Institute of Public Affairs, GIPA, where I try to share my experience and knowledge with my students regarding to software testing. Now, among attendees, I can see some of my students who work as a software tester, and it really makes me happy. So, the profession of a software tester is getting more and more popular day after day. As you can see, a lot of vacancies on everyday basis. Apart from these vacancies, a lot of my friends and acquaintances ask me recommendations for choosing appropriate tester. Universities demand lectures regarding software testing. Students are interested to be employed as tester. And of course, the salary of tester is growing steadily. Space is not an exception as well, and since the day of its origin, space pays great attention and time to quality and testing. Software testing is essential in space, and a lot of time and energy is devoted to it. It should be mentioned that in space we use Agile's most popular framework called the Scrum framework. That's why quality and testing is a topic of concern not only for testers, but the whole team. Now, today I'm going to discuss 3 following topics in my presentation. The first topic is what software testing life cycle is like in Space Digital Neobank. The second one is how we test Space mobile application on Android and iOS operation systems. And the second one is a very interesting question. If everyone can detect a bug, why do we need software tester? So let's start from the first topic and discuss what software testing life cycle is like in Space Digital Neobank. In spite of that, the profession of software tester is getting more and more popular day after day. We know that in many companies, people still think that testing is quite an easy process. That's why they don't have any tester on the project, and they think that it's okay and enough if a developer, a project manager, or any other team member perform testing. But in space, we know that testing is quite hard work, long and important process. And even more, that testing has its own life cycle called software testing life cycle. Software testing life cycle in Space Digital Neobank includes following 6 phases. The first phase is analyzing user stories and reviewing design. Then we continue with test planning. The third stage is test designing and collecting test data. Then comes test execution process. Then we continue with user acceptance testing, and the last stage is testing on production. Let's discuss all the same steps and phases in details. As I have already mentioned, at the first stage, my team and me try to check the requirements, user stories and designs thoroughly. We constantly interact with other team members such as user interface designer, user experience specialists, product owners and so on to understand requirements in details. It's very essential to us to understand requirements and design in details not only for testing purpose and testing reasons, but it's essential for us to understand our customers' needs. That's why we always ask ourselves how the space application will be used by end user and end customer. The next stage is test planning. On this stage, we try to plan our roles, resources, and responsibilities. What I mean? For example, who will create test cases, who will test APIs, who will test Space Mobile application on Android operation system, who will test Space Mobile application on iOS operation system, who will test Space on other devices such as tablets, SST, and so on. Also, who will test other vendors' software to check how they work and if they meet our needs. And of course, what kind of access and programs do we need to perform testing. The third stage is test designing process. At this stage, we try to create various test cases and scenarios, such as positive as well as negative test cases. Test designing process is not one-day process which should be finished soon. Even more, test suite, test cases, and checklist is a live document for us, and we always try to improve and enrich it by adding new test cases constantly and every day to avoid the pesticide paradox. To be honest, I think the test designing process is one of the most interesting and creative process in software testing life cycle. It should be mentioned that on this stage, great time takes collecting test data. According to software, test data can be different and versatile. For example, to test digital onboarding process in Space Digital Neobank, for example, we need different types of ID and passports. What I mean? For example, ID or passport of a person who is 18 or above. ID or passport of a person who is under 18. Cancelled ID or password, overdue ID or password, ID or passport of a person who is dead, and so on. As soon as the first testing version of our applications are ready, test execution process comes. It means to test application using above mentioned test cases. It should be mentioned that test execution phase includes some sub-phases. The first one is discovering bugs. As we all know, the first principle of software testing tells us that testing always shows the presence of bugs. Then we have to describe these bugs and create bug reports in a relevant system. Then our development team is going to fix these bugs. Then they gave us the new version of the mobile application with fixed bugs, and we perform retesting to be sure that bugs are really fixed. After retesting, we periodically perform regression testing to be sure that all functionalities are still working correctly and they are not damaged. It should be mentioned that modern applications are so complex and run in such different environments that it's sometimes very difficult to determine when to stop testing. But we know that test execution process cannot last forever, so we have to sometimes determine when to stop testing. And we can answer on this question, for following. For example, we can stop the testing when we have release deadlines, or also we can test when all critical and very interesting test cases are passed. And of course, when all critical bugs are fixed and only some medium or low priority bugs are open. As soon as test execution process is finished, user acceptance testing starts. And on this stage, we ask our developers for preparing RC builds, I mean release candidate build for user acceptance testing. And we show, and user acceptance testing is a process when we show to our product owner new functionalities at a meeting called sprint review. After user acceptance testing, we are preparing for release. It should be mentioned that mobile application testing should be performed more thoroughly before release, as we rely, for example, than mobile application testing. As in the case of mobile application, we rely on the third parties, Play Store and App Store. What I mean? As we all know, Apple App Store needs 2-3 days to publish the new version of our application. And in the case, if we have missed some critical bugs on our application and have launched this kind of application, as soon as we can fix it and upload the new version of the mobile application, we still need to wait 2-3 days before release. In the case of in the case of web application, we don't have such kind of problems, and we can make update instantly. As soon as mobile applications are available on stores, Google Play Store and Apple App Store, me and my team are the first one who downloads this from production and starts testing on production. Accordingly, we are the first end users and first customers for space application on production who use and order new products and new functionalities. I mean, we were the first one who underwent the onboarding digital process in space, opened an account in Space Digital Neobank, ordered the space card and space sticker, added other banks cards and made card-to-card transfer, took a loan, took an installment, and so on. Now let's move on the second topic of my presentation and discuss how we test space mobile application on Android and iOS operation system. As you can see, we use different types of testing and different methods, such as positive and negative testing, functional testing, non-functional testing, I mean user interface testing, usability, UX, and localization testing. And of course, I want to say something about monkey testing. It's really fun and it helps us to catch crashes. What I mean, for example, when we have free time, we click on multiple elements at the same time. For example, we scroll the screen and click on the buttons at the same time. We click on the buttons very quickly or for several times, and we enter random invalid inputs and check the result. But it should be mentioned that there is no matter how interesting cases you can prepare on what different type of testing methods you use, if you don't take into account that testing devices should be similar to real ones as much as possible. What I mean, for example, our customers uses different mobile applications and have different other mobile applications on their devices, and of course they have SIM cards on their devices. That's why we also try to resemble our testing devices as much as possible to real ones. What I mean, we also install different applications on our testing devices, and we always put the SIM card to our testing devices as well. That helps us to catch very interesting bugs. For example, I remember when I was testing an application, I have opened another application, and then when I come back to to the application what I was testing, some data, for example, was disappeared. In another case, I can remember that when I was receiving SMS and a call on the testing device, the application what I was testing was crashed. So it's really important. Apart from testing devices, internet connection should be similar to real ones as well. Generally, we will have good internet quality and good connection in our offices, but it does not mean that our customer have the same quality as well. For example, they might be walking or driving or sitting in a cafe where the internet connection has not perfect quality. And that's very important to test our mobile applications in such conditions. For example, weak Wi-Fi, shifting from 3G to 4G to Wi-Fi and vice versa, and failure of the internet. Now let's move on the second topic, which is a really very interesting question. And as we all know, any person, I mean our customer or any team member or even a child can detect a bug. Then there is a question, if everyone can detect a bug, why do we need software tester? This question could be asked in many other different ways, but I prefer highlighting these three answers. Tester creates various cases as positive as negative test cases and uses different types and different methods during testing. Tester tests software thoroughly and can catch hidden bugs. Tester takes responsibility and say magic press that all critical bugs are fixed, that all critical and important test cases are passed, so we are ready for release. Now let's summarize my presentation and check one more time how essential is the software testing process in space and how interesting is the one working day of software tester. So because it includes following activities: analyzing user stories and reviewing design, creating test plan, create positive and negative test cases, collecting test data, testing APIs, testing space mobile application on Android and iOS operation system, testing space application on tablets and SST, creating bug reports, perform retesting and regression testing, attending the daily stand-up, sprint planning and preview and other meetings, discussing bugs with product owner and prioritizing them, analyzing discovered bugs by customer or any other team members, determining when to stop testing, and the most important part is taking responsibility about quality and being ready for release. So it's all what I wanted to tell you today, and thank you for your attention.